Thank you for coming. This is the ACS Group Multi-Bin Warehouse Management discussion for license plate for tracking pallets and case packs in your inventory. What I will do today is take you through the use or view of license plates, which are pallets and case packs in your inventory. It can be viewed in all the screens where you're viewing your current inventory. As you can see here, I do have a lot of different inventory. You can tell the difference between, let's say, a standard unit of measure inventory and that which might be a pallet is by the number here in the middle of the screen. And then we have these package types. We call them ID types or package types also. In the system, we have a few references here. This one is a PAL for pallet, and the number for that one is, if I open this up a little bit, you can see that right here. You can track different kinds of license plates in the system. That could be for a different group of goods, like, for example, a mixed pallet of goods, or it could be the same item in there. You might use that for where you might want the system to track and ship the best possible pallets and case packs out of your inventory also. Some businesses use license plates in order to be compliant for customer needs because they need to show the items that are in a given pallet that you ship to a customer. So we'll talk about building pallets for customers and shipping them out. We'll also talk about how we can save time in physical count by having pallet and license plates in your system. So to cover what we're looking at here right now, once again, this is my standard unit measure in the receiving dock, which is in the staging location, and there's 600 eaches right there. Right below there, I do have a pallet, and this is a mixed pallet, and so I'll click on the pallets button on the right-hand side. This gives me the ability to drill down and view the contents of this pallet. On this first screen, it was showing I had a quantity 40 of that one item in there, and that is within different case packs. This is maybe one of the more complex kind of pallets, but this is an example where you might have an ID within another. This makes use of where you want to keep track of cartons within a pallet. Some users have that. Some users just have, let's say, one level. So I can tell there is multiple IDs within this by viewing on the left-hand side. You can see that this number PAL 7 has this package number 337 here where there's this item, this package or pallet, or this number right here, number 6, has these items included in it too. Let me show you a single item within a pallet. I went out of that screen and onto this screen, and I'll drill into this one. And this one here, you can see that we have 320 eaches of this one item on this one pallet ID. So what I'd like to do is cover the different things that we can do with these pallets, moving them around and building them and receiving on them, and go through the entire process. First, let me give you an introduction to these ID types in the system. Located under the inventory setup screen, we have this ID type code maintenance. And this is where you can set up your ID types. In my case, I have case, master pack, package, pallets, PAL2. I'm using PAL2 for large pallets in my case. We do have a description to go along with that, and we do have a feature in the system to do a next number, automatic next number, and that saves time with using the system. You can use the next number in most every transaction in the system. The license plate can be used throughout the system for directed put away and directed picking. So to know the size within a bin location, that's why you have a parameter here to represent how big it is. We'll talk a little bit more about that. There's also other features to break the pallet or case pack automatically in the shipping side, and that's just represented here as a default checkbox here on the screen. But the point here is we know that we have unlimited number of package types that we can set up in the system. I'll get back out of there and go back to our inventory screen. What I'd like to do here is move forward and let's pull up one of our serialized items. In here you can see this is a serialized item that has quantity 7 serial numbers in this bin location C10M. I used the quick group transfer screen to transfer this inventory into a license plate. So in this case, I'll select this one, this one, this one, and that one. I'll select the kind of package that I want to set up. If I don't set it up ahead of time, it will ask me, and I'll select PAL for pallet, and I'll hit this next number, and it will go ahead and default that for me. In this case, it's asking me for a bin location. I can select the existing bin location where my inventory is at, but in my case, I do want to move it into a staging location because I want to ship this on an order. So I'll select staging location here and hit transfer. And now it went ahead and moved my inventory into the staging location right there. You can tell there's multiple serial numbers because we put this little asterisk ... here. And you can see there's quantity 4 in there, and we left the other 3 in the bin location there. I could drill down into that newly created pallet. You can see the contents of it. I can hit the quick print screen, and I can choose to print a pallet tag report on the fly. This pallet tag report could be used as a label. In my case, I'm printing my 4 different serial numbers on this pallet tag report. I'll exit here then, and what I would like to do is invoice a sales order. So what I'll do is I'll go into shipping data entry. I could go into invoice data entry too. I will select sales order number 189, and here in this case, you can tell that I have quantity 4 sold for this one serial number item. I could go in here and manually distribute it, but I want to demonstrate a feature in the system to automatically assign the contents of a pallet to an invoice. I can click here, select my pallet. It's this one. It's just showing me on the screen the contents there. And then I hit allocate, and it automatically shipped it. And now it did a full distribution for me of that license plate into this shipment. I'll go ahead and click accept and accept this order. And it will go ahead and regular Sage 100 process setup for printing packing slips and invoices that is going on there. In my case, what I wanted to show here is an added report that we provide under inventory and reports. And this gives a invoice to pallet report. And this will show you a report of everything that's in shipping or invoice data entry, all the invoices and all the pallets associated to the invoice. The reason we provide this report is because you could have more than one pallet to an invoice, or one pallet, for example, for multiple sales orders, perhaps going to the same customer. In this case, this is another entry that's out there for a pallet with these items that's going against this invoice. And here's the contents of the pallet that's going against this invoice right here. Another feature that we provide in the system in terms of directed picking and where the system can pick the best inventory to ship on a sales order is our feature to auto-allocate in directed picking the inventory, the best case packs and the best pallets to go against an order. Standard in the system, I'm going into the directed picking options in the system, and just to show you the options that we provide to automatically allocate inventory. Now, some users want to manually allocate the pallet just like I did earlier. In the case where you have pallets and case packs and varying sizes of goods, perhaps you want the system to calculate that for you. So in this case, they include all areas for the best pallet case ID. This tells the system, look, I'm going to look in different sections of my warehouse, not just in the pick area, for the best packages for an order. In my case, I do want it to span different areas, but it really didn't make a difference in this example. And to give it the best case pack possible, and that's what this option says here, allocate the highest level case ID possible. What I want to do is I have the option set right now to auto-allocate inventory to a sales order as I print the pick sheet. I could have set it to do this when I just enter an order and save it. In this case, it could be order number 186. In this case, I have 1,005 eaches on the order. So let me pull back inventory maintenance and show the contents of there. As you can tell, I have a lot of different inventory, different sizes. I have pallets, let's see here, there's these packages where there's 10 eaches. I have these master packages where there's 40 eaches, and then I have pallets, which there are 320 of them in each pallet. So the goal of the automatic allocation for the best case pack and pallet is to where the system will look through for the best package that can be associated to it. So once again, I have my back in the sales order. I'm going to print the sales order, pick sheet. It's going to go ahead and reserve that inventory for me. And you can tell here that it picked up 4 pallets. There was one pallet, and this is a small pallet that's 6 eaches here that was in my primary bin location, and so it went ahead and retrieved that one too. I have 3 pallets, 320 each of these pallets, and then 39 eaches was taken out of my primary bin location. And I had set up in the system to take my eaches out of my primary bin location first, then my pick area before seeking inventory in other areas in my system. So I could have had eaches in a bin location, pallets, case packs. It doesn't make a difference. I don't have to separate. Just because I have different packages, I don't have to have those in different locations. Seeing that now that it's allocated and represented on the pick sheet, this tells the picker what to pick. If you have a authorized or certified RF handheld integrated with the system, you can scan the goods, and here it's telling the picker which goods to pick in which locations and which ID number to select also. Since it is pre-allocated in my case here on this order 186, I can go ahead and go into shipping date entry or invoice date entry and select it and immediately ship it just like that. Notice that here defaulted the 1005 quantity shipped, and I just want to show you how it's pulling through the pallets and the eaches back through into the invoice. And that's it. The system calculated the best inventory to ship for the order and reserved it, told the picker where to go pick the goods, and then shipping it, invoicing it was as simple as selecting the sales order. If there were exceptions in the shipment, I could have selected each line in there and changed the inventory that was actually picked. To refresh this screen now to show how this influenced my quantity available, you could tell that quantity allocated here increased. Quantity available went down when quantity allocated went up. And so here you can see that these 2 pallets, for example, are allocated and reserved, and there's 0 available on that. I can review what is available by drilling down on the allocation button here, and I can see which sales orders that applies to. And I do have a lot of sales orders here. And we could tell that went to these orders right. Oh, it went into invoicing, pardon me. And it went into invoicing right over here on this. These sales order numbers went into this one invoice 10093. This screen is quite useful in directed picking as a side note, because if you're allocating inventory perhaps on the pick sheet or ahead of time, you can tell when the goods have been shipped or selected for invoicing because they were marked right here. If you're using the RF handhelds and you're scanning the goods, typically it will reserve it in sales order entry or against the sales order until you do ship it in shipping date entry or invoice date entry. Okay, I want to take one more order through here and to show the demonstration of allocating inventory right out of license plate. Earlier we automatically allocated it. I could easily manually allocate it. And so in this case I'll select 500 to ship and shipping data entry. The way we provide the inventory lookups is when I do a lookup on the pallet column, it will show all my pallets and case packs or IDs in the lookup. And here you can see there's 500 on hand on this first one, 500 allocated against that one. And just if I were to do a lookup on the lot number, it's going to show all my eaches, and you can see all the different locations the lot numbers are. In this case, I'll select this 100 out of the shipping dock, and then I will select from one of the pallets here. Oh, and it automatically closed out. If I click back in there, you can see what it did. It pulled the remaining 400 for this order from that particular pallet. I could have changed that to 300 and then pulled another 100 from another pallet. Notice it's telling me what's going on in process there, and I can select the other 100 from there. And just to drill back down into what, so I have 100 coming from one pallet and a 300 coming from another pallet. So it's full flexibility whether or not you want to ship full pallets in the system or you want to take inventory off of a pallet or a pallet ID. You can always do that. Okay, and that's to finish off that one sales order. So let's talk about building pallets and case packs and IDs. During receipt of goods, I could choose to create an ID and put inventory to it, or I can receive my inventory at the standard unit measure and build my case packs or pallets in a bin location, for example. I have an example purchase order here. In this case, I have 5 eaches of this PON A252, and in the setup of the 252, I have a setup of how many items are within a given case pack. So I have 5 25 packs, unit measure code packs. Okay, and then for this lot valued item, I have 500 eaches set up because what I want to do is select the license plate at receipt of goods for this one. So I'll go ahead and get out of this purchase order. Now what I'll do is I'm going to select that purchase order and receipt of goods. And in this case, it went ahead and auto-received 5. If I drill down to see what the system did, it created each one of the IDs for me and distributed 1. In my setup here, I had a quantity of 10 per case pack, so I have 5 case packs going into the receiving dock. And that could have been pallets or whatever automatically. And for this lotted item, I just want to manually allocate this. And so in this case, I'm going to select a pallet, and I'm going to do a next number. And I have it set for my goods to automatically go in the receiving dock, and that's set into the options. And I'll designate the lot number here and the quantity to go in there. In this case, I'll do 250 of that one, and lot 333, 250 into another pallet, and that's like that. So in this case, I'm doing a receipt of goods, and I'm creating the ID as I'm doing the receipt of goods and associating the inventory to that. Another way of doing this, and which I want to give an example for, is where I'm just receiving the inventory and receiving the standard unit measure. And then within the bin location itself in the receiving dock, I want to go ahead and put in, do the build function there. So I'm going to receive, let's say, 100 of this item. And I have the option to go ahead and automatically put that in the receiving dock, and that's why the system didn't stop me to put in a bin location. And I can show you what it did right here, receiving and put in 100 there. So in this case, I'll go ahead and accept it. I can tell you that when you're assigning IDs, license plate IDs and receipt of goods, here too, you have the, like sales order, you have the ability to print tags on the fly here from receipt of goods. And this is everything pending in receipt of goods and all the pallet tags that can be associated to your inventory. Even though I didn't update it, we still give you the power to print this pallet tag report for items that you have that are sitting in receipt of goods data entry. So I'm going to go ahead and run the receipt of goods register. The system provides an audit trail of everything that we assign, the ID types, locations, and quantities. And again, this one is the other one where I'm just receiving a regular 100 eaches into that location, into the receiving dock. So I updated that, and then I want to go into the bin location. And this is everything that I have in my receiving dock currently. And this is the item that I just received, as well as these are the packages that I received also. I should mention that also. So what I want to do for these 100 each is, so let's say it comes in the receiving dock and I want to build my case packs in this fashion. So we provide a build button, and here it's going to ask me what kind of package type that I want to build. In this case, I do want to build a pallet, and it's asking me how many per pallet. I'll put in 50. And so when I do a generate, it's going to go ahead and create those 2 pallets for me and assign 50 each to each one of those pallets. If I needed packages within pallets, or like cartons in the pallets, I could have used these other fields over here to select the sub packages within the pallet, and of course it would have built that for me also. When I do proceed, it goes ahead and builds that inventory for me, and now you can see that I have my 2 pallets now in inventory right in this location. So this is another way to build inventory that you have received again. So now is the plan of putting my goods away. So we provide a nice replenishment dashboard right off the main menu. In this case, what I'll do is I'll do an X number. I'll select that I'm going to do a directed put away from the receiving staging location. I'm going to do that from the 00 warehouse, and I'm going to put that into the destination warehouse. Now, based on the settings for directed put away, the system will advise where to put those goods. It will look at the capacity of the locations. You can have preferences in for your items or product lines in certain zones of your warehouse you prefer your goods to go to, and a handful of other settings. I'll do a calculate. It's now showing me on the screen where I'm going to put my goods. One of the options here is where I want to store my pallets. So I came down right here, and this is the setup for pallet, and that's going to D10L. And it's putting 1 pallet in there. And this actually is putting a total of 4 pallets over here. There was this 1 item there, and then there's 2 other lotted inventory items into D10L. If I were to go into the setup of that bin location, it's empty, and you can see that in the setup here I set up to where it can accept no more than 4 pallets, and currently the location is empty. And that's why it provided the advisement to go ahead and put those pallets there. Other options that we provide is where you can select any type of ID type that any type of package that you prefer to go into a location, as well as you can designate the number of those packages that you want to go into that location, or you can use our volume field, which will look at the cubic volume of the package size and calculate how many will fit in there. So you can have a mix of standard unit of measure items or packages in a location, and the system will compute how full the location will be. So going back to our screen here, the way we provide our dashboard is so that it gives you the power to, first of all, calculate and get what the system recommends of where you put your goods. You could choose to use the options and the information that it's telling you, so you can put it to those locations and those certain quantities. We provide a log if there were certain exceptions and that you need to notate. We provide 2 pick sheets, and a pick sheet and a put away sheet to help with the picking and the put away of goods. In my case, I'm picking all my goods out of the receiving dock, so there's not much need to print a wave pick sheet. But I can print a wave put away sheet, and here what it's going to do is going to give me the best direction to go ahead and put my goods away. I could pull all my case packs and pallets and in standard unit measures out of the receiving dock and go through these bin locations and put the goods away into these locations. Here too, you can go ahead and override any changes that you happen to make. If you're using RF handhelds to make the transfer, of course it will pick it up at that time of when you transfer the goods and going into those locations. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and transfer the goods, and I'm going to use our quick transfer option. If I was going between different warehouses, I would typically use the inventory transaction entry choice. That way, transaction entry can handle the transfer between the different warehouses. In this case, it went ahead and made the transfer. And then what I need to do here is go ahead and review the results. One good way of doing that is pull up the location for receiving and see what is left in there. It's all transferred out. Receiving has now been cleared out. I can see I have a full audit trail in the system of what we just did. And you can see the movement, the transfer of all the license plates into designated locations from here. If I were to go to a specific item, of course I can view my inventory now out of the receiving dock and right into the destination location that it went to. In this case, I lost track of which location this one went to. This one went from receiving into D10L. I can tell by the dates here and the transaction numbers that we have. Note that all the receiving that I just did went into what is associated to one reference number. We could tell this is all grouped together, and so you can see that this item came out of receiving and into D10L. And if I were to look at D10L, I can see my inventory here. And once again, it gives me the ability to, I can still drill down to it and so on. Drill down to the inventory and like so. So then what we want to talk about then is a couple other options. The system also provides the ability to put away for goods that, for bin locations that you want to maintain a certain level of stock. So in the setup of the system, you can designate the quantity that you prefer to retain in certain locations, so the minimum and maximum amount per location, or out of all your primary bin locations in your warehouse, the number of items that way. So for example, in this case, I have a maximum of 3 case packs in my primary bin locations and master packs in this warehouse of 3. If I were to go back into this item over here, I can see I have a maximum of 4 in the warehouse for one item. So here too, we can use our location replenishment dashboard to do a calculation, calculate for the primary bin location replenishment. And I could do a calculation. And here it's going to look at my available inventory in other areas and look at the minimum replenishment points and advise transfers. Looking at the pallets that we were just talking about for that HON H252, it's pulling 2 out of my overflow area. That's where I have my back stock. It's pulling 2 each out of there and putting it into a primary bin location A10L. The reason I did that is I said I wanted a maximum of 4 in my primary bin locations, and there's already 2 in other primary bin locations, and that's why it's advised to. Here too, I can make changes as desired. I can change destination bin locations, the quantities to be transferred from other locations. I add, delete, and so on. In this case, I do want to print a wave pick sheet. A wave pick sheet gives me the ability to go through the areas where it's advising to pull inventory, especially if it's like in sequential order, and go through my different bin locations and pull my inventory. And then in terms of putting the goods away, it will provide an optimum way for me to put my goods away. In my case, it's all going to the primary bin locations and so on. And then, of course, I can transfer it as desired. Or if I'm using RF handhelds, I can do the transfers using the RF handhelds, moving that inventory that way. Some of the other things that I could do in this dashboard is the ability to pull goods that I had produced into a staging locations and put those goods away into other locations. I can choose to rotate inventory into a group of locations, and I can have my own user-defined transfer. So perhaps I have a save transfer that I want to reuse, and I can do that and reuse the transfer as desired, do that transfer. So perhaps you have a production line, you want to maintain a certain level of inventory, and this is a great way of having a safe standard transfer in the system. And that's very compatible with license plates or not. That's our discussion here for the most part on the complete use of license plate, receiving in inventory, building up inventory, moving inventory around using the transfers, and you can sell your goods. You can sell whole pallets, you can select items off of a pallet, or you can let the system automatically calculate the best case packs, master packs, and pallets to ship from your inventory. That ends our presentations for license plate. We appreciate your time. Thank you.